Hello, my name is Zaina Almaita, and today I will be discussing the issue of genderism and its influence on political agendas based on Chapter 9 from our textbook Media and Society and an article written by Michael Lechunga. Our textbook talks about gender stereotypes and how men are perceived as hypermasculine and violent while women are perceived as vulnerable and they're sexualized, and this is a huge underlying issue in our society that Michael Lechunga uses in his argument. Lechunga takes a closer look at how this affects our society by studying the radically nativist militia group called the Minuteman Project. These men describe themselves as a sort of neighborhood watch, but for the U.S.-Mexican border. They've been put into the media spotlight several times for using violent fear tactics to scare immigrants and intimidate them, and also to influence our political leaders such as our President Donald Trump. Lechunga argues that Trump has used the Minuteman Project as fuel for gender-specific narratives revolving around immigrants, and also that it's partly to blame for the issue of genderism in our society. The majority of activities done by these anti-immigrant vigilantes was just to intimidate immigrants and to generate media attention, but they did so violently and often illegally as well. Yet, they helped further the political agenda of many, including Trump during the 2016 presidential campaign. Lechunga also states in his article that many of the tropes about migrants Trump used while campaigning and since taking office, including characterizing Mexican immigrants as rapists and feminizing the victims of crimes committed by migrants, relies solely on the heteronormative masculinist performance to mobilize political effect against migrant communities. So, the Minutemen, while being portrayed as a group of vigilantes just trying to protect our borders, is just adding to the underlying issue of genderism that is present in our society. Lechunga also argues that these nativist expressions gender the nation and its citizens as vulnerably feminine to justify violent and masculinity expressions of state power over those who are threatening them. These immigrants are being portrayed as rapists and thieves and overall criminals, while U.S. citizens are being portrayed in a feminine light as vulnerable and in need of saving by something such as the Minuteman Project. While neither of these stereotypes are realistic, they are the heart of genderism. The abilities of the Minuteman Project or the MMP to manipulatively control political agendas, even indirectly, is very real. Lechunga also argues in his article that the Minutemen's anti-immigrant activism over a decade ago transpired into a series of legislative and political shifts toward nativism that accumulated in the 2016 national elections and ended with Donald Trump winning the presidency and the right holding of both houses of Congress. The group has already fulfilled its original mission, forcing the American politicians to steer more resources into beefing up law enforcement security at the southern border. So not only have the MMP used hypermasculinity to intimidate immigrants, but they've also used it to attract more law enforcement to the border. Whether or not this is for their crimes or the supposed abundance of immigrant illegal activity, more law enforcement patrols the border, and either way, that's ultimately proving the alignment of the U.S. political agenda with that of the MMP. In conclusion, Lechunga does a great job at identifying underlying stereotypes in the U.S. government and also in society as a whole. His ideas also line up really well with the ideas presented in our textbook, and I find no fault in his discovery.